It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
Laugh.
We had a little fun, because it's a very long day, you know.
And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
All right, let's go already.
And John Nash.
Pucker up, buttercup.
With a focus on career, the consumer culture, and marketing from an LGBT point of view. We're all business, except when we're not.
Hello, everybody. I feel like the New York transit system. Hello, everybody.
Everyone. The trains are delayed.
Hello, everybody. It's Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, John Nash. We are the Focus Group. For those of you following along live with us at Facebook, thank you. Also, during our YouTube, on our YouTube stream, which is also Focus Group Radio. And, of course, you can go to focusgroupradio.com to find all the platforms where we're available. And I'm not going to name them all, but they're all there, and they do all work. We were told by a couple of people that a couple might have had glitches in them.
iHeart was one of them.
iHeart was one of them, but we were able to get it to work. So before we go forward, thank you, Alabama. Thank you for everybody who went out and voted. And I was so delighted last night when I watched the returns come in.
Well, last week we had Don called us from
Alabama.
And is he in Huntsville area?
Where the Rockets are.
Huntsville, Alabama. Yeah.
Huntsville.
And that's one of the counties that went for Doug Jones. And on that score, I'll say this. The most interesting statistic I saw was this morning on one of the news programs that the overwhelming majority of voters in Alabama made up their mind about who to vote for prior to the allegations that came out about his misconduct with women and young girls. And to me, that's an interesting differentiation, because that means that a number of voters respect the law that our country's founded on, the Constitution. Because here's a candidate who twice was taken off the Supreme Court of Alabama because he refused. He was choosing which laws it's like a kid in there. No, I'm not going to take out the garbage today. That's someone else's problem, even though it's the law of the house, right? So it was the Ten Commandments kerfuffle and the gay marriage issue.
No, I was just delighted because when you even saw the celebration there, the diversity that was in the audience, they're giving an awful lot of credit to particularly the African-American community in Alabama, which did not come out necessarily as heavily for Hillary at the time. But in these last two elections we've had, this past November and this time, the Democratic base is really getting out. So it's been fantastic. I even saw, I don't know if you saw the HRC, the equality signs that were in the audience. And then they went over to Roy Moore's place, which had a very different somber. Of course, he has not conceded yet, and because Jesus will help him find the way.
But they do have a Jew. They do have a Jew working.
Jew lawyer. Stephanie Miller was wondering whether the Jew lawyer rode the horse on to go to the polling place, and I just started laughing.
The horse's name was what?
Sassy. Yeah. So here's a man that's anti-gay with a horse called Sassy. That he was riding wrong, which Mika Brzezinski pointed out.
Oh my God, she went crazy with.
I knew right away he didn't ride right, because when you are in a kayak, for instance, and you've gone kayaking with me, you sit forward. Yep. You don't lean like this, and he's riding the horse holding two reins, which he was acting like he'd never ridden a horse before.
And Mika was really specific. She said that the bridle was going to be would damage the horse.
You use one hand when you're riding Western, but it was just such one of those TV, or he wanted to make it a photo op, which just went bad. But Chuck Todd even said, when his wife said, "Everybody thinks we're bigots. Our lawyer's a Jew," and Chuck Todd said, aside from the craziness of that, what he was most surprised was that was a prepared remark. She wrote that.
It was on paper.
And previous to that, they talked about they had a black friend, and I just thought, man,
they have no gay friends though. Apparently,
well, because we're all going to hell. So, hey, before we go too far, we have a good friend of ours here joining us in a few minutes, Keith Price from Keith Price Curtain Call, and he has a 7 plays on and off Broadway that he's selected.
I'm excited because he's picked some fantastic shows.
And there's 2 that I would love to see, and so he's going.
All right, I'm not going to say which 2.
We'll find out when we see him. So Keith is going to join us in about 20 minutes, and then he'll go through his picks. A lot of you come to New York City during the holiday season and often want to take in a show, and it's a great time to do it.
And I bet Keith will tell all of us that if you're here for the holiday, but if you don't see a show that you want to see, January is a great time to see shows.
Is it really?
Yeah.
So it's not as crowded.
Well, you know, the New Year is over, and you get everybody who wants to travel and do their thing. So it's Don.
We have Don in Alabama. Don, welcome to the Focus Group.
Hi, guys.
Are you?
Yeah, Madison County went blue for the first time in 34 years.
Wow.
Don, I was shocked, and can we now say it's Don from Alabama?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can go back to that. I'll drop the Rocket City for now.
Rocket City.
Hey, Don, were you given that you're in a highly specialized area, meaning you're in a part of the state that is extremely science-based, et cetera, were you surprised or were you worried at all that the state might go for Roy Moore?
I had picked that Moore would win by 3 points, not lose by 2, or 3%, not lose by 2%. So I am surprised, and what surprises me the most is that there's a region in the state. It's called the Black Belt. It's not a racial thing. It's because the soil there is dark and it's great for cultivation. How the Black Belt went almost above the Barack Obama numbers from 2012 for Doug Jones. And that's because Doug Jones did two things very smart. He never openly attacked Moore, but every time Moore put out a false claim, within 24 hours there was a commercial. Roy Moore has said this. I'm here to tell you, this is not true. This is what is true. And he never got in the mud with him. He was always factual, and he was always straightforward. And he went to the places that, Democrats typically do not go regardless. And Moore, essentially for 14 days, disappeared. With the exception of an interview with a 12-year-old girl that was pretty much staged, he was totally, he was in witness protection.
Yeah.
And by the way, that interview with the young journalist who happened to be a 12-year-old girl was totally creepy. I don't care. I don't care how you look at this or whether you personally believed in your heart of hearts that all those women were lying. I mean, you still had to think that was a little bit tone deaf to have that little reporter doing this segment. Crazy.
Yeah, no, it was. Well, we're really excited, and the whole world was watching, and I just thought it was a great thing. And as I said earlier, that the election last night, coupled with the election in November, with the amount of diversity that got elected into our public offices, you've got to be shaking in your boots if you're down in Pennsylvania Avenue right now.
Now, I'm going to totally do a non sequitur with Don.
Okay.
It's a total
talk about Star Wars?
Total topic change. And it's not, it's for future conversation, but I'd be curious about one thing. Don, are you seeing a lot of VR stuff pop up in your work? Because Don's an virtual reality. Don's an experiential designer of museums and galleries. Is that going to be a part of your job in the future?
AR is, I've implemented 2 AR projects already. We haven't gone full VR yet, principally because the horsepower necessary for the rendering engines is so intense. That kind of hardware is not reliable for the long-term viability of a museum, because you've got to put hardware in that's going to last 5-10 years. And, you need heavy CUDA rendering engines to push substantial VR. Now, you go to the Sci-Fi Museum in Seattle, they've begun to put precursors of that in. But AR, especially when you drive it on the user platform, smartphones and so forth, you can really enhance a visitor experience through those AR systems.
Yeah, and what AR is, for anybody who might not know, AR is augmented reality. So you might hold your phone up at a display and little things will pop up like that will point to things that you might be interested in, or it might be a set of glasses that you wear that you see things pop up.
I don't like it.
As you go through an exhibit or something. I was just curious, Don. I'm going to definitely...
I want to see the real thing. I don't want to have to look through
No, it augments. You are seeing the real thing. It just adds information.
Wasn't it like when all the kids were doing the little eggs a couple of years ago? They were going around.
Tamagotchi.
Thanks, Don.
Don, we're going to let you go, and thank you so much for calling today.
Thanks, guys.
And thanks, Alabama.
Thank you, Alabama, too.
You're welcome.
So John and I have we have a new sponsor here in the focus group, and it's Man Great.
The month of December.
And this thing is heavy, John. This is 8 pounds.
I got to do some
American
bicep
steel.
curls. Give me this thing.
Let's see if you can do it. Can you grab it? Can you grab it? Can you? So John, it's not good enough to just have great meat.
Bump. You got to have Man Great.
You got to have Man Great in order to cook it right. It's a tasteful gift for the holiday season. And as we said, it's made out of cast iron. And you have to season it like you would a cast iron pot.
And you mentioned that last week as well, and I thought that was really smart. And Tim said it's olive oil or whatever you want. Do you heat it?
It's an
Do you heat
oil.
it? And
Yeah, but there's directions on how to do it.
Okay.
But everyone does it a little differently depending upon whether you want to use.
and the set that we have here
certain
with
oils.
us on set, these are the smalls, right? Like you get 2 of these and you
Yep.
put this together. At mangreat.com, which by the way is running a 50% off special, all brushes, all grates, they're all 50% off. That's that brush.
I'm just going to use this to do my back.
Yeah, Tim said that the other day. He's like, I'm going to use that brush to do my
Good.
back.
Maybe you do your feet.
But here's the principle with Mangrate. Any grilling surface can be enhanced by this system because it's cast iron, and what it does is it takes the heat, absorbs it, and distributes it evenly, which Tim brought up last week is an interesting point because not all grills are hot in the same spots, right?
Yeah, I have one of those. I mentioned I have one of those expensive grills. Unfortunately, somebody gave it to me, but there are cold spots on the grill. So if you have certain types of, if you're cooking a burger, you have to be careful where you're putting the burger or the steak or the fish because some
gonna get
parts are
done
going
the
to cook
same,
more
yeah.
than the other. And with this, which I've been using now on 2 weeks, it cooks everything evenly because it heats up. You just turn your grill down to medium, and then you cook off the surface. A lot of people like the little marks it makes. I don't care so much about that.
Bob does.
Bob would, of
And
course,
does Richard
but so
like
would
that?
Richard. I could care less.
I don't know why these two guys are like...
The type of people that if you cut the mushroom wrong, they throw it away in the garbage can.
And we might be having a Mangrate Christmas because
you?
my mom, I'm not sure, I'm thinking salmon may be on the menu for Christmas. And if it is, it's coming off the grill and it's going to be coming off Mangrate.
My only thing, I want to see how that goes with the salmon. I'm sure it works well.
Seasoned, I think, if the grills.
You want to just make sure it doesn't stick.
I was going to ask.
Put down the skin first. So anyway, go to mangrate.com and get 50% off now for the grates and the brushes. And it's a tasteful gift, and we like to say it's a luxury that you might not buy for yourself. But
Your
it's a
postman
great
or
gift to get.
UPS delivery man may curse you.
Yeah, mine was heavy.
Because this thing is like heavy. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Mangrate.
There's 50 calories right there. I just burned off 50 or 100 calories.
So what caught your eye this
So yeah, mangrate.com, 50% off. What caught my eye?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
This is so totally for Tim because Tim has traveled to Asia many, many times in his previous life as director of marketing and advertising. Asia. Hey, by the way, I still had to frame that. That's another thing entirely. But Tim used to bring back stuff for us, whether it was a little toy or a little product, or a piece of advertising because it was kind of amusing. But I saw this and I reacted right away. So Venezuela is having a huge problem. I mean, shelves are empty. The country is
communism didn't work?
Socialism, yeah.
Communism.
Look at that.
Look at North Korea.
So a writer was talking about how there are products that are available now for the first time in Venezuela, and people are very happy because it's stuff like shampoo and things like that. But when you take a closer look, it's not what you think it is. Now, this is going to be a visual one, so I'm going to walk people through who happen to be listening to the podcast.
So are these actual products for
These are
sale
real products
in
for
Venezuela?
sale is Venezuela, and like let's say Head and Shoulders. Except in this case, the head is spelled H-O-E-D, and then shoulders is not even, there's no L in there. It's S-H-O-U-D-E-R-S, Head and Shoulders.
Oh, the shoulders. Oh my God, but it looks just like
looks like Head and
right?
Shoulders, right? The next one is Max Quattro razors, which are supposed to be a ripoff, I think, of Gillette.
Gillette?
The Gillette ones, the Quattros, yeah. It's just amusing.
Have you ever used the Quattro razor?
No,
I think that's too many blades.
I was always told that it's 2 blades too many. In fact, 2 blades is enough, really. But so there's Head and Shoulders, and there's the Max Quattro razors, and then there's something called Always Pads, which is a feminine hygiene product, but they spelled Always, A-L-U-A-Y-S. Always pad. And then there's something called Johnson's soap, which is kind of like Johnson's soap, and it's okay.
On the same script.
There's the Johnson's soap.
It has the same script as
Don't you
Johnson's.
think that looks just like the product? And then John, there was one in there, Convert. I can't even pronounce it. Okay, C-O-N-V-E-N-R-T. And who do you think they're ripping off?
Colgate.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And Spider-Man.
The unpronounceable Convert, for instance, is Colgate. white on right, or white on red. And then it says, the surge in knockoffs is welcome, though not exactly a cause for celebration, in a country where the socialist government's Byzantine system of economic controls has sparked acute shortages of toilet paper, antibiotics, bread, and much more. That the clones are on the cheapish side is a plus, however. Inflation is out of control down there. So I don't know what the Bolivar, all right, so the real Head and Shoulders cost 118,000 bolivars.
Right.
Guys, do you know what a bolivar is worth?
In Venezuela, about 18 cents.
Like, I'm guessing it's cents, right?
Well, you can't buy anything there.
We got John on video and we have Garrett on audio. These are our booth guys.
Where are their hats? Are they wearing their Santa hats?
The hat's out here. John put his hat right out here.
There's another Santa hat.
But he's still doing his lumber sexual thing. He's got his lumber, you know. So I think, 118,000 bolivars for a normal bottle of Head and Shoulders, but Hoed and Shoulders, H-O-E-D and S-H-O-U, Hoed and Shoulders is only 32,000 bolivars. That's a huge difference. Whatever the
probably $3.20
versus $8 or something. Yeah. So that's what caught my...
I'm surprised there's anything on the shelves in Venezuela, because the place is a total basket case.
Well, there were other pictures I didn't put in there because they were a little depressing, but you'd see a grocery store with just nothing, and then you'd see these fake products in there. So that's what caught my eye.
Now, Japan actually had... I used to have a bunch of the products on my desk. Now, they're all... You could never get away with them now, and actually the Japanese government... I guess it was...
Was it Chinese or Japanese?
Well, it was Japanese, but they had to change a lot of the products because they were racially insensitive. But like the coffee was plantation coffee, and they actually had pictures of plantations on there, people picking beans. And then they had Darky toothpaste, and they had cow piss, which was
I remember the Darky toothpaste.
Yeah.
That was like a brand.
Yeah, and then all they did when they were told that you can't do that, that's not politically correct, or it's insensitive and racial undertones. They just changed it to Darley, so they kept the same image. So it went from Darky to Darley, and they changed the K to an L.
Darley.
And then my favorite thing was this drink called cow piss, and it was like a Gatorade. But
did they not know? Was that
as smart and as the second largest economy in the world, maybe third if you argue with Japan, but well-educated society, smart. Lots of English speakers. Everybody learns English. I don't know if it's like, ha, 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 we don't care. But even in America Town we would go. There was a place called Junkie American Clothing, the Pearly Gates line of clothing. I mean, there was all this kind of...
the Pearly Gates line of clothing.
So there was always kind of this tongue-in-cheek with English. But...
John and
the cow piss?
They found something, yeah. Cow?
Well, that's cow urine. No, this is actually cow... It's like CALPIS, and it's a can of stuff. And you could get it at the, at
Do you think they still sell it?
Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, I'm sure they do.
But it's not spelt cow piss. It's C.
No, but it's cow piss, so it comes out like cow piss. CALPIS, cow piss.
Oh, that.
Yeah, there it is.
Hey, that doesn't look so horrible to me.
Well,
I mean, it's an unfortunate name.
Yeah.
I had,
unfortunate name.
I had friends who worked in agents. When I owned my agency, I had counterparts in other agencies. And one time we had a lunch. I had a lunch with friends from BBD, and they were talking about their counterparts in Mexico and how certain American products and ads had to be really carefully looked at because when they translated them word for word, it would sometimes mean things they had no idea, and it would be really insensitive or something. So,
well, that was they developed a product for the plant called the Snatch-O-Matic, and it was
enough said.
And we tried to explain to them that probably wasn't the best name, but it was actually a robotic arm that would take the part out of the bin and put it on the car. So they looked it up and it was snatch. You're going to snatch something, take it. So they just called it the Snatch-O-Matic, and they did a whole story around it in the employee newsletter. And we were just laughing, and we said, well, but there's tons of those stories.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a whole show dedicated to those.
We have a whole year planned to that.
Right. Caught my eye. This headline I saw, and you and I talked about this before, but the headline was how a fake restaurant became London's hottest reservation and a top spot on TripAdvisor. So there's this guy, he's a writer, his name is Uba Butler, and he recently impersonated a designer.
The Shed. The restaurant's called The Shed.
So he impersonated a designer for Paris Fashion Week, and he realized that previous to this, he worked at Vice, and then another third-party website where he was getting paid to write fake reviews for Yelp and for Edmunds.com, all these places. So he's like, I wonder if I could create a restaurant and become number one in London. So he named his shed in his backyard, the Shed at Dulwich, and he started doing by appointment only reservations. So he said all he needed was a cheap phone, which he bought a cheap phone from the supermarket, an address and a website. And he said it was only by appointment, so nobody could find out where he was or show up. And then he went and got bleach tablets and shaving cream and created all this fake-looking food. And prop food and did reviews about it. So there's a shed if you're watching online.
That's the actual shed.
That's the shed in Dulwich.
Nice little background.
And so then he started having these great reviews, and he would show pictures of the food, and he would hire some of his friends to sit with the food as if it was delicious. And they all went all the way up. There's the bleach tablets and shaving cream and stuff. He was making the food look delicious. And he went to number one for 2 weeks on the TripAdvisor, the top restaurant in London. He said, but it backfired because everyone's then started trying to, he said, I had PR companies calling me, people trying to send applications in for employment. He said there were distributors that wanted me to carry their food. So he said it got out of control. So he didn't really know what to do. So he went and bought a bunch of TV dinners and invited some friends over with actors and served it up in his backyard. And he said there were some real people mixed in with his actor friends, and they're all talking about his actor friends, how delicious the food was. He said, and people were like, oh, yeah. He said it was about 60 cents a meal he spent to get these people to come in, and they were all believing that this was really great food. And he named the things like Lust, and it would be some rabbit kidney thing or whatever. But he said it really was ridiculous, and people would book again. Like, oh, we've got to come back. We've got to come back. It's so popular. Anyway, he got caught.
Wait. Anyway, he got caught.
So it says the shed held on to the ranking for 2 weeks as the top-rated restaurant in London. It had a big mystique about it, obviously, because of the by appointment only, and nobody really knew where it was. He said after he served the frozen dinners, he said some people saw through the ruse, but many enthusiastically bought into the whole scheme and decided to rebook the restaurant again. He said the moral of the story was that you can't believe a lot of the information you see on the internet. TripAdvisor says they don't quite understand why there would be any real-world incentive for anybody to make up a fake restaurant. And he said, I'm just calling you out by the fact that somebody can game the system. So that was his.
Yeah, that's...
Which I thought that one was interesting because you do see a lot of odd reviews, I think, for restaurants on, don't you? You see bad reviews and good reviews, and you know there's probably somewhere in the middle.
So, when I went out to Burbank for the graduation, I used TripAdvisor to kind of try to... Burbank is not... First, you had recommended that I go to Pasadena. And that's a great idea. I smartly stayed within minutes of the convention center and where the graduation was, but Pasadena has beautiful hotels.
Yep.
Burbank...
It's Burbank.
It's a little different. It's motels and strip, you pull up. So based on, I tried my best on TripAdvisor to figure out what to do. And then I tried to cross-reference with Yelp and everything. And the place I stayed at, I knew what I was walking into. It was fine. It was okay. I've been in motels before. It was okay. But if you read only certain reviews, you would have thought you were walking into where's the jacuzzi? Where's the hot tub? Where's the pool? No, it wasn't that kind of place, but... Anyway.
So somebody else did that.
Yeah.
So our business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So, John, you always laugh at me sometimes. Sometimes it's hard to find birthdays. Today was one of those days, but I did find one. His name is Neeland Youngblood from Texas. He's 62 today. And he is, it says you probably never heard of Youngblood, mostly because he has avoided the spotlight, even though he's played a key role as a Democratic fundraiser and the most successful African-American equity fund advisor in the country. So
But I do recognize that.
Pharaoh's.
That's the fund?
That's
I
his
do
fund.
recognize that name.
He was an African-American physician turned businessman and then political figure. He's co-founder of the private equity firm Pharaoh's Capital, which focuses on providing later-stage funding for undercapitalized healthcare and business services in locations that are underserved around the nation and the world. And he was also a top bundler for Barack Obama. A bundler is a person who takes fundraising money and you bundle it to
whole chunks.
Right, chunks of money. And it was interesting. He said that he went to school to become a physician, and he was sent on a trip overseas, and the company had sent him on a private jet. And he said, I'm in the wrong business. So he's like, I'm not going to be a doctor anymore. I want to be in a private jet. So he ended up starting this equity fund. And
Wrong
right,
business.
he says exactly that. He said, I had no idea this world existed, and I wanted to be part of it. So he used his education as a physician, and then went into the private equities and raising money for healthcare. Okay. So he had it covered on both sides. He said that. He's never has made as I said, he wasn't very well known, but he thought lately he wanted to make himself more well known because he thought he could be a role model for kids that would never see themselves in that sort of role. And he said he thought it was important for people to see him and the success he had. He tried for 13 years to get into what they call the Lily White Dallas Country Club. He applied for 13 years. He never got in. They said that it was because of his association with Jesse Jackson. But he finally did get in. He says, I don't play tennis. I don't play golf. I've got a swimming pool at my house. So he and his wife, they said, well, then why did you join? And he said, because my dad used to wait tables here. And he said, and I want my dad to see that. And then he said, he said, my wife always says, let me get it right. He goes, if you're not in the room, you don't get served. He says,
Good point.
He was the very
Good
first
point.
African-American to
Very
break
good
break the color barrier there and join the country club. So
That's a good business
happy
birthday.
62nd birthday to Neeland.
Only 62.
Only 62.
We should have flown a private jet in our 20s or 30s. We might be in a very different
It's like the first time I went out west. I was like, why didn't I hear about this? I should be living here instead of in this cold Northeast. But
Yeah,
anyway.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
So many of you know one of our other partners here on the Focus Group is Deep Discount. We always ask you to go to focusgroupradio.com, click on the Deep Discount logo. John likes to do his shark imitation. And we get credit for it, so we appreciate that. There's still time to get things ordered for the holidays if you're looking for some gifts. And John and I both picked a couple things this week. John, what did you pick?
I had a ball going to Deep Discount and looking, and it's basically last-minute gift sale there. You know, site-wide, they have a lot of great specials. And I happened to click on something called Culture Factory, and it's a record label. And the thing that I picked is called Slave to the Rhythm, and it's a digitally remastered edition on CD, but the case it comes in, or the packaging, is an exact replica of the LP sleeve. And by the way, Slave to the Rhythm is Grace Jones. There we go. So it's an exact replica of the album when it originally came out as a mini LP
Always love that
cardboard
cover.
sleeve, and then you get the digitally remastered CD. And Deep Discount carries the whole line of Culture Factory remasters, and there's a lot of great bands. So that's the first one.
Did you see her? There's a YouTube clip of her. I think it was for the Queen's Jubilee in London, and she sang "Slave to the Rhythm" with a hula hoop. And the whole how she did it for 6 minutes. That slave to the rhythm, and the hula hoops going, and she's in this. It is. I thought, I'll just click on it. I watched the whole thing. I just couldn't believe it.
Did you see Grace Jones when she was here?
I've never seen her live. I would love to.
We saw her at the Hammerstein Ballroom, I want to say it was 4 years ago or so. You came up another couple weeks later to see the Pet Shop Boys.
Yeah.
She was about an hour late.
She always is.
Well, she's a super cool performer, and everybody in the room knew her and her work, and everybody was chill and laid back. Then she came out, and there she is. That's it. Thanks, John.
Slave to
Thanks,
the rhythm.
Garrett. And she's wearing that great costume, right?
And she sings this, and that hula hoop does not stop. It goes for the 4 or 5 minutes.
Hey, look, she is I love Grace Jones. Love her.
Yes, Grace.
And just as a joke, or not as a joke, but back in the day, whenever you bought a new stereo and you hooked it up for the first time, our stereo test was Slave to the Rhythm.
Really?
Ding! You know how it makes that sound, Slave to the Rhythm? And if that sounded right, you had the good stereo.
All right, so we got off track.
That's one. Sorry, we're off track. But she gives a great live show, by the way. I want to recommend the DVD. It's a Christmas DVD. I think I recommend it every year because it's one of my favorite movies. It was not until I met Bob because it's one of his, but Bob's turned me into a big fan. It's called The Bishop's Wife.
I've never seen it.
On DVD. It's Cary Grant and David Niven. Cary Grant plays an angel who comes to answer David Niven's prayers about a cathedral he wants to build. And Loretta Young plays David Niven's wife, and David Niven is a pastor. Cary Grant is brilliant in this, as I think he's brilliant in almost everything he does. I love watching Cary Grant.
Is he gay?
There was rumor that he was. Yeah, there's supposedly, but I don't know. It doesn't affect me enjoying his performances.
No, I just wondered.
But
I don't know.
So yeah, Bishop's
Bishop.
Wife is a great, great Christmas movie. I highly recommend it. It's on DVD, and it's a great price at deep discount, by the way. So what'd you pick?
I picked two things that somebody I hope gets for me. So they were,
Is that a clue for me to be writing?
you know, one of my favorite directors is John Hughes.
You love John Hughes,
And
yeah.
so I'll read the little blurb. It says he's one of the most influential writers and directors of all time, creating an iconic portrait of 1980s teen life that helped define an entire generation, meaning ours. And so some of the most memorable films are here in two different sets. So there's one called Too Cool for School, the John Hughes collection, which has Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, Pretty in Pink, and Some Kind of Wonderful, which I'm not that familiar with.
Yeah.
But it's under $10 on the DVD, and you get all three movies, which is great. And then the other one is called the John Hughes Yearbook Collection as DVD. That's a little more money. It's under $20, but it also has more information to it and some behind-the-scenes information.
So is this The Breakfast Club?
And that's Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, and Weird Science.
Wait. John Hughes was Weird Science?
Yeah.
Why didn't I know that? That's one of those funny movies that I watch now and then I'm like, this is a daffy
And
movie.
you know, what young boy didn't have a crush on Molly Ringwald and Anthony
didn't.
Michael Hall, Emily
had it on my-
Estevez, Judd
I might have
Nelson,
had the crush on
Ali
Emilio
Sheedy.
Estevez. I had a
You
crush.
don't like Molly Ringwald? I love Molly Ringwald.
but I liked Emilio
I danced
Estevez.
like her. I loved her.
Emilio Estevez, I liked him. He was the wrestler with an attitude.
Rebel.
I liked him.
You like the rebel with a cause. Anyway, so if you go to Deep Discount, you can find those John Hughes collections. I just did that as a whim. I just Googled.
love those.
I just went on to the Deep Discount site and hit it in the search engine. These popped up, so it was cool to find that. And what was the new release this week?
Okay, you and I have talked about this before. It's The Kingsman, The Golden Circle on Blu-ray. The original Kingsman, the first movie in this series, has been actually playing on TLC on TV a great deal. And by the way, one of our good marketing pals at Deep Discount taught me a trick I should have been doing for years. If I start watching a movie on TV and I have the DVD,
Right.
I immediately stand up, put the DVD in. Guess what? I bought myself half hour or 40 minutes in my life because I'm not watching commercials.
If you want to go tinkle.
You hit the pause button. That's what it's for, right? Pause. So the new one is Kingsman, The Golden Circle. We watched the first Kingsman and actually thought it was rather amusing. It's kind of this whole, it's almost like a Bond riff.
It's a good cast.
Yes, it is a good cast, especially Channing Tatum. If Channing Tatum were in The Breakfast Club, I'd be attracted to him.
You see the
over
Colin Firth sex film, sex tape?
Is there one?
I think so. Am I wrong? Do I have his name mixed up with someone
Oh,
else?
Colin Firth
The
is...
little Irish guy?
No, you're thinking of
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell.
Never
Ooh.
mind.
Yeah. Sorry, Colin Firth.
Nice
I know
deep
you're a big
discount.
fan.
Never mind.
All right, so you visit Deep Discount by visiting focusgroupradio.com. Click on the shark logo. Arr! I always do the pirate, even though it's a shark. And we'll wrap up with...
Thanks, Deep Discount.
Thank you, Garrett. All right, we're going to take a super quick break. We're going to visit with Mashelle Williams first. We have a little interstitial of her talking about diversity at Out and Equal. We were there in October. And then when we return, sitting next to me will be Mr. Keith Price. So stand by.
Aside from a lot of the talk here at Out and Equal, and this is an LGBTQ convention, is obviously around the gay and lesbian employees and so forth. But in your role, what other areas of diversity or inclusion or does it encompass? Is it women? Is it?
It's everyone. It is interesting. My role over the years has really grown. Initially we're focusing on women and the LGBT community and people of color as this, sort of umbrella for every ethnic minority. But over the years, it's come to be about veterans. It's come to be about, we have in our company a very German-American thing happening. So cultural diversity. Why are you laughing?
Ich bin Hans.
Yes.
My name is John.
I can't
Tim in
even
German?
do that.
I don't know.
Tim in German? Is there a German name?
I've worked there 24 years and I speak not one word of German. Go figure. But for us, it really is about every individual is coming into the workplace. And now we have this generational divide that's happening. And, my generation, which is Generation X, is kind of just sitting in the middle going, what's wrong with you people? Because it's the boomers and the millennials fighting it out right now, right? But so that's an issue. And it really is about every person who shows up in your workplace comes with a worldview. They come with a background and experience, and
A
we
cultural,
want
and that's what you would
everything.
say worldview would be, the cultural view of the whole thing, right?
Yes. And so where before it was like, well, let's count how many women we have, and let's count how many people of color we have, and let's, count. It's less about that now and more about how are we creating an environment, what we call a culture of inclusion, right?
Yep.
Where no matter what it is that you come to the workplace with, you can find an embracing and welcoming place to put your talent to use and feel like you are contributing to the success of the organization. So the definition of diversity just keeps expanding.
Which I guess is the
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more.
Really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host John Nash. We are the Focus Group. Be sure to follow along with us all week at focusgroupradio.com to download any of our platforms, or, of course, on our Facebook page, which we update each day with some new clips and some other information. Before we went to break, John and I made the mistake. We caught Garrett off guard and did not do our recap of the deep discount items. So John recommended Slave to the Rhythm and The Bishop's Wife. I did the Too Cool for School and Yearbook collection from John Hughes. And what was the new release?
Kingsman, The Golden Circle.
Kingsman, The Golden Circle. Yeah. So that was that. So now we took care of that.
And Garrett, thank you. Garrett gave me
Garrett.
You caught me off guard. Because one of our listeners said it would be really helpful to just do a recap. And I have to agree. Tim, I'm going to write that in from now on.
No, you got to do that. So, hey, as promised, we have Keith Price joining us, and he's no stranger to many of you, and of course, not to us. Broadcast personality, host of the podcast Curtain Call. In studio, we're going to talk about some theater picks for the holidays and the new year that you brought us. So,
yes.
How you doing, Keith?
I'm fabulous. How are you doing? It's just so chilly. I wanted to.
And actually,
I mean, look, it's just freezing outside.
Can we get you a toboggan?
Here's the funny thing: it really is cold.
It is cold outside.
It may not be snowing, but
Well, we had our snow this weekend, so that was good enough for me.
Very pretty. We had about. You had some at the shore.
Yeah, down in Rehoboth we had
2 inches upstate, and it actually stuck. And I shoveled a little bit, and then the sun came out, and it was still cold. But you know how sun.
It's all beautiful. Yeah. At the wintertime and the holiday season, it's perfect for the weather. Perfect weather.
And it's perfect for shows.
Yes.
So I want to reinforce something for our audience, whether you're watching or listening. Keith is going to go through a couple of wonderful shows that he's selected.
Well, I mean, of the things that really are catching my eye for the season.
But these things you can see in January, February, possibly?
Some of them are going to end because of the holiday season will be over by the 31st, but then there's a couple that will be going on through that you will.
And is January a good time to catch a show?
Actually, when you were saying that earlier, it is a true good time because the tourist rush isn't as big. But it's also a great time because you wind up getting to see the shows because people are just here to work. You know what I mean? So you'll be a part of the audience and the smart travelers that will come during that time of the year.
Wait. The smart
travelers.
The teaching finger came up. The smart travelers.
I know. It's like going to Paris in April.
It's
we
true.
all know that. Come on now.
Yeah. I know it's your business and it's your profession to be theater and be would I say a critic? Would that be
I like to think of myself now less as a critic than more, and I don't think of myself as a critic because my thing is I don't like to criticize things that I don't like because I believe that in the end it's good for anybody to see any kind of theater wherever you can see it. So if it's a show that I particularly don't like we talked about this before, if I don't particularly like it, I have certain reasons why I don't like it.
Right.
But those same reasons could be the reasons that everybody else will love it. And so I just talk about the things that really strike my fancy. And if it's something that I didn't particularly care for and someone asks me, I'm like, well, it wasn't my particular cup of tea, but it may be for you.
But I've got friends that love it.
But I have, the friends that love it. There's the Times that will say how much they love it. The critics will say. And sometimes, like I said, that's the other reason why I don't like to put a lot of stock in being considered a critic. I'm more of like an ambassador.
Have you ever walked out of anything?
That's a great.
You know what? I'm trying to think. A long, long time ago, I remember leaving God, what was
Aside from the morning jolt.
I got to be careful because I still have my severance. Anyway, no, I can't remember of walking out of anything on Broadway because I remember either getting the tickets for free, and that was like important for me to stay to watch the show. But I've sat in shows that I wish I had left in, and then you're kind of like, well, all right, take that back. I did. And I shouldn't say what it was, but I will say that it had a very snowy theme, and it happened a few years ago, and it has some really great people in it. But
was that like was that Dr. Zhivago?
That might have been the one. I don't remember.
You're not the only.
Vaguely.
I was so excited.
Did you take your mom to
I was
that?
so excited to take my mom to Dr. Zhivago, and I went into a shop my friend owns on the Upper West Side, a wine shop, and one of his store managers is an opera singer, and I was at the counter buying a bottle of wine. I said, I wanted to get tickets, and he just pauses, and he said, there are some incredibly talented people in the show.
Cast.
He said, I sat through it. And I said, well, you just said something funny by saying I sat through it.
I sat through it.
And he said, I hate criticizing shows because of all the fine talent that goes into it.
Exactly.
He said, but it could have been so much different. He said, I have a recommendation for you. He said, I would take your mom to see Something Rotten.
Fun show. Fun
My
show,
mom
which is on tour right now.
Laughed
actually.
from start to finish. It was the better pick. And the only show I've ever walked out on was Les Miserables. And that's because a week before we saw Phantom of the Opera, and I really had no taste for Les Mis. And by the second act, Bob and I are like, do we really have to see the... I know.
I'm sorry. I mean, again, Zhivago was one that I remember staying through and not loving, but wanted to leave. But my thing is that besides the actors that are on the stage, there are the stage hands, there are the ticket
the whole
takers.
crew.
There's an entire little industry that's
a world
dependent upon
Yes.
that show succeeding. And so I'm not one to like knock stuff down. If I don't particularly like it, if you'd have asked me, I would have done exactly like what that guy said to you. It's like, well, maybe you might want to think of something else.
But he was not negative.
But you can't do it
He respected
because
the artists that were putting on they're all into it.
and
right?
they are there to serve the story that's been presented in front of them. And so you have to at least understand that from the performer's perspective, they're only doing what they're basically told to do. And so I just never want to ever be that person. However, but when I do love something, y'all.
Well, John put these in the order that you handed them in. So the
I
first,
can't even remember.
So the first one was Annie.
Annie at the Paper Mill Playhouse.
Annie at the Paper Mill Playhouse.
It's a hard knock life.
Right.
I've never seen it.
Okay,
okay.
Perfect. Then this is the time that you should see it. Only because you're not going to get as great of a cast together as I think this particular cast
Wow.
is. It's you have two-time Tony Award nominee Christopher Siebert, who I
plays
love.
Daddy
Who plays
Warbucks?
Daddy Warbucks.
Okay.
And the Tony Award winning Beth Level playing Mrs. Hannigan. Come
That's where
on,
I saw her before.
honey.
I went to the
From the
site and I
Drowsy
saw her
Chaperone.
picture. Right.
Yes, honey. She is giving the kind of performance that role is supposed to have. And not really since Dorothy Loudon when she did it in 1970, whatever, 77.
Mrs.
The original Miss
Hannigan's
Hannigan.
kind of a over-the-top comic role.
She's
almost.
a comic role,
There's
but
cruelty
there's
there.
cruelty, but you have to find that line of being able to play the cruelty so that it's still funny.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what she does. And then, of course, you add the songs like, Easy Street. You are going to gag, honey.
So this is in am I saying it right?
Milburn, New Jersey.
How far is that from
If
Manhattan?
you were to come to New York City, and let's say you're coming to make the trip to
From Chicago.
From Chicago, you literally will just come here and get on the train, just like you would if you were in Chicago, and go to the suburb, because it's basically a suburb. It's like a 30-minute train ride. The train literally is like 4 blocks away from the theater, so it's not like you're going into some crazy neighborhood.
It's a nice town, Milburn.
And it's a nice town, and I would suggest stopping at the Thai House. There's no endorsement, but the Thai House is very cute right before
Well,
a
they
show.
said there's great restaurants. They said the Playhouse sits on a bucolic campus.
It's gorgeous.
And they said it's a beautiful little town.
gorgeous.
I saw that. I thought that.
And it's
that
a
sounds
beautiful
great.
theater space. It's huge. Major shows have come out of that space that you might now know of. Some places like Newsies. Remember Newsies?
I do remember Newsies. Yeah.
Newsies originated there. Right now there's a tour of The Bodyguard going on with Deborah Cox.
Wow.
That originated. That was where it made its.
You mean
United
the
States.
bodyguard we know as the Whitney Houston,
Houston.
Kevin Costner?
So what would a ticket be for something like that?
The tickets are generally pretty, like they're less than Broadway.
You're not right.
Because you're not on Broadway, but at the same time, you are getting all of the Broadway talent because there are only so many stages in New York for a Broadway person to be, and this is one of the ones that's close enough for them to still be able to still be a part of New York and have.
Is Annie running through the
31st
of December?
Of December.
So this is one of those shows that you said earlier.
You have to go see. You must go see.
Now the next one on your list was, it looks like a comedy, Desperate Measures.
Desperate Measures.
At the York Theater.
At the York Theater here in New York City. It is a. What did I say? It's a couplet kind of thing where people are speaking in couplets and they're doing that. But it is the Measure for Measure, William Shakespeare's Measure for Measure, and they've given it like this Western themed energy, and it's got this fantastic music.
That's why they're dressed up like they're on the prairie?
Exactly.
I
And
was wondering, because the site says it's a take on Shakespeare's Measure for Measure.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, and then
was
I read about it. It
fabulous.
says in
And
1890 in the
Measure for
Western
Measure had
Territory.
Miss Kitty.
I had a Miss Kitty and Lauren Molina, honey. That's the girl that you should watch in this show because she's kind of like the body bar girl that has to do all of the hard work in the show. And of course, the pretty ingenues are, yeah, I can't do that. That's not my virtue. And Lauren Molina just comes in and turns it out. She's a member of this really great group, her and her friend Nick Searley, called the Skivvies, and they have this fantastic thing where they perform in their underwear, basically.
So like a comedy troupe?
Like a comedy troupe, but I mean, these are classy musicians, classic singers, trained voices that just give you everything. They do these great mix-ups of mashups of contemporary.
Now, is the York considered off?
Is off Broadway as well.
So you're looking at a ticket price
anywhere. It'll be under $100.
Okay.
Which I mean, and then again, that's why there's things like TKTS. That's why you have the TDF. That's why there's Today Tix. All of these options for you to be able to get tickets at a cheaper price.
Is Today Tix the one where you actually show up and someone's waiting to hand you the
Someone's
tickets?
waiting there. And thank you for bringing that into that mix. That I just kind of partnered with them as a ticket concierge. And so it depends on what night of the week I may be available. You might be seeing me as a person handing out tickets.
Yeah, Today Tix is an app, and instead of like, you actually are met at the theater by someone who looks for you and they hand you.
Well, that's
directly.
wonderful.
It's a very nice way to see the show.
It's a great way to see the show, and it's so hip.
Do you have to wear a costume or anything?
I have a fabulous red coat that I'm wearing now
that's
this
wonderful.
season for the
If
winter.
he were in a costume, he'd be restricted to a zone.
I know.
With the other
I
characters.
forgot about
you
that.
You don't want that.
You don't want that shade.
So who's next on your...
Number three is one that I want to see.
Which one?
Who's Holiday at the West Side Theater?
I know why you want to see this.
You can't like.
Oh my God. Okay. Who's Holiday with
Comedy.
It's a comedy. It is Olivier Award-winning Leslie Margarita, who, if you are a Broadway fan, you also know her from Matilda and from Dames at Sea. She is
As the actress.
she's performing. It's a one-woman show, and she is Cindy Lou Who. 40 years after the big night when she meets the Grinch and where her life ends up. Now, I will give you this.
This is a fun idea.
Hello.
What a great idea for a show, right?
Matthew Lombardo's script, fabulous.
So it's just her.
It's just her.
It's
On
about
stage.
what's about an
On
hour.
stage. It's an hour
That sounds
10,
great.
hour 15. She takes you through an emotional journey that is Cindy Lou Who's, but you will laugh.
Can you put
will
Cindy
almost
Lou
get-
Who? I mean, this
Is
is
she
great.
dressed like? Is she dressed
She's
like the
giving you
Dr.
that,
Seuss character?
She's giving you the full hair. She's talking in couplets. Like everything it's a rhyming couplet. And so
my God.
she is amazing in this show. And I'm telling you, it is like she is the Cal Burnetti energy of this particular
Perfect.
thing.
What a great
I would love
what
to
a
see
great
that.
She's
reference,
so that.
right?
She's so that. It's like when you see her in this costume, when you see her in this because she's in a trailer. Cindy has, as I said to her when I interviewed her, it's like it looks like Cindy Lou Who has gone through some things, and Cindy Lou Who has gone through some things. You will laugh. You will almost at some point cry because she just takes you on a full emotional journey, and that's thanks to her genius talent. That's Matthew Lombardo's wonderful script
I think
and
when
Carl
you com-
Andress's
When you
direction.
compare a comedic actress to Carol Burnett, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
She's gonna
Sings, dance,
she will
everything.
occupy the character. She will make that zany costume work.
Yep.
And she'll hit all the notes.
Like a
all the
Tracy
notes.
Ullman
Like a
almost.
Tracy Ullman.
Tracy Ullman,
almost, yeah.
absolutely.
So when you saw this, now because they say it's R rated, don't bring your kids.
Don't bring your kids, because I mean it'll just be unless your kids
They'll be
are
going like
yeah.
this the whole time.
You know, I mean, Cindy's like I said, Cindy Lou Who has gone through some things.
Did you laugh and laugh?
I laughed. I almost got emotional at some places. She almost got me, but then just when she almost gets you, she kind of just turns it on a dime and it becomes even funnier. So
Love
it is honestly
This
a
clearly
joy.
only runs to the 31st.
Through the 31st.
Oh,
but
gosh,
believe
I would
me,
love to see it.
this it is so worth it if you can make a chance to go see it. Like if
I'm actually I
will,
really
Shane, if you're watching, Shane Marshall Brown, I'm coming for you. These guys have to see this show.
I would love to
This
see
is
that. show.
brilliant. So it's funny. I've seen Annie produced a number of times.
Right.
And it's always a great musical, and I've seen kids in it for the kids version.
The kids in the show are fabulous.
Something like a Desperate Measures or a Who's Holiday, it would be a treat because I haven't seen that
Exactly.
performance
And
before.
that stuff is just off Broadway and regional theater.
Right.
So
Where's the Who's Holiday is the West Side Theater.
West
I think
Side
that was
Theater
on
on 43rd
40
Street
okay.
and 9th Avenue. Yes.
So is that considered on Broadway?
It's off Broadway.
Off
Broadway,
Broadway, yeah.
okay.
Off Broadway, it actually refers to the size of the theater.
Size of the
seating
theater, like
capacity
under
of the theater, yeah.
like 300 or something like that.
So then on Broadway, this was an interesting one because it's been performed before.
Right.
And it's called Once on This Island.
Yes.
So this is a musical?
This is a musical. It is a revival. I think it's the 25th year anniversary of the original that featured the fabulous LaChanze in, I guess, was
And the
her
original role.
the original role of T Moon. And this particular production, I'm telling you, first of all, I wrote down the cast because I wanted to make sure that we get these names in because they're fantastic. In the roles of the gods, it was Merle Dandridge, Quentin Earl Darrington, Alex Newell, who you might remember from the show Glee as Unique.
Yeah.
Unique, he's giving you Osaka and he's turning it out. I can almost say Tony nomination, may I say. And Tony Award-winning Lea Salonga, Miss Saigon, and a little flower drum song. That show is pure perfection. But honey, it is all about this young actress. Her name is Haley Kilgore. She is amazing. And I'm telling you to the point where her first number when she comes out to sing, I was in tears. I took the intern that works in the office with us sometimes, and she came with me, and we were both looking opposite because we didn't want each other to see each other crying.
How old-
It was
how
just
old-
so beautiful.
how old is she?
She is like 19, 20. She is a baby, this young woman, and she knocks it out of the park. That entire cast knocks it out of the park. Michael Arden's direction.
Have you
is
seen it
fantastic.
perform before?
I've seen the show perform before when I lived in Texas. There was a version that was there,
So
a
this
community theater
clearly
thing.
is like another level.
This is a whole other level. I mean, you're literally at the Circle in the Square Theater. You're like basically immersed.
This
in
is
the
at Circle in
island.
the Square?
Yes, it is.
Oh, this is a cool theater.
And this show will be around for a while. My prediction, and I know I'm saying this way early because there's so many other things to come, but when I walked out of that show, it was the same way I felt with The Color Purple. This show is going to win the best revival. This young woman who we don't know, who is now a new name to me, like Cynthia Erivo was at that time, she is going to get at least at the minimum a Tony nomination, if not, dare I say, the win. But that's a show you can see.
And the music, you think it's going to be a
Aaron's
great...
and Flaherty. These are the same people that wrote Ragtime.
Well, the music's the music.
The music is the music, and it's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful
But their
story.
execution of the
execution and the way that that direction of Michael, what's his name, Michael Arden, and the choreography. I have to remember the choreographer because at one point she was doing things that I was like, I have no idea what these kids. I don't have her name down here. Oh well, I didn't, but she's fabulous. Trust me. There's some African dancing. She's giving you everything.
Well, you love this play, I think.
I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved
star
it.
by that one. Tim,
The fifth one is another one. And I saw a number of people on Facebook that said they love this. And actually, I posted a picture of you and Adam Sank on our Facebook page. I guess you saw that together?
Yes.
So SpongeBob on Broadway, the old Nickelodeon.
And then when we got the notes from Keith, he sent us a note here. Hey guys, looking forward to seeing you. Here's what we're going to talk about on the show, and it says SpongeBob. Then he puts in parentheses, yes. I said SpongeBob.
Because I am
Nickelodeon cartoon, right?
Nickelodeon
made into a
cartoon,
musical.
They made into a musical, and I've got to tell you, I walked out of that.
surprised?
I was beyond surprised. Both Adam Sank and I were sitting next to each other, and
Can
we
you
were
believe
like,
we're here?
At first, you walk in and you're like, "Oh my God, we're seeing SpongeBob." And I mean, oh really? I never watched the show, but whatever. I was tickled. I was joyed out of my mind. Like I literally was just so happy when the show was over. It is a combination of absolutely everything. Now, I say this in that I had to make my notes here that it is truly one of the most joyous casts I've ever seen working together because they have to do all kinds of crazy things together. Fantastic choreography by the Tony Award winning Christopher Gattelli who did Newsies. You got Tina Landau who's doing the direction. There's this young man, his name is Ethan Slater. He's the character SpongeBob making his Broadway debut. If he doesn't
how
get
old is someone like Ethan?
he looks like he's like 20.
Okay, well, he
But
could
I
be,
mean,
so,
you know,
yeah.
he looks young. I don't know how old he is. He might
But
just be
that's
skewing
actually
young,
appropriate for the role.
But it's appropriate for the role. Lily Cooper, who's in it, playing Sandy Cheeks. Gavin Lee, who's doing Squidward, the crazy kind of like someone has the best freaking tap number in the entire history of I swear to God, it was fantastic. Oh my God! And then there is a young guy. Wait, I have to get her name. It's a woman. Her name is Jaylyn Christine Lee Jokey. Josie, I'm sorry, Josie. She's playing this character called Pearl Crab, who evidently is a whale who's been adopted by the crab.
And this is all from the cartoon.
And this is all from the cartoon. And she is another one making her Broadway debut with this breakout voice, this breakout role. She is having the time of their lives. And I'm telling you, you will walk out and feel nothing but joy and feel like, oh, this is great. And what I loved about it, like all the cartoons, because you and I are from the generation of the Warner Brother cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
Where they were a little bit subversive about, you know, putting things in that make you kind of go,
just a little.
you know what I mean?
Just a little.
But this show, like, there's a moment where you're basically talking about climate control denial. There's a moment where you're talking about people accepting folks for who they are, as they are, accepting odd blended families like the crab who's the father of the whale. I mean, it is a really interesting way to get people to look at that without being afraid. And it is so funny, and it was
How does something like this get done? Because if
two questions: how does it get done, and then what do you think its long-term prospects are?
Okay, how does it get done? It starts with a group called Nickelodeon and their Pocketbook.
Oh, okay.
I didn't think of that.
Then you think about the director who worked patiently to try to put this together, to craft this in a vision that was going to work. Tina Landau's vision. I didn't write down the book writers, all of these things you can find out. But I mean, it is a wonderfully done story with the music. This is the other thing, too. The music that's involved is like a series of people like Yolanda Adams, Cyndi Lauper, Steve Tyler, John Legend. All of these people have contributed songs to this cast recording that they give you everything. You get hip hop, you get a gospel number, you get, I mean, and it's like full out, the costumes are amazing.
It's fair to say that you were surprised.
I was surprised and so thrilled that I got to experience it.
But it sounds like it's going to be a tough ticket to get.
It might be a tough ticket to get if time goes on. And like, I hope that when we get around to the to the Tony Award time, that hopefully people will see it and remember to not necessarily take away the SpongeBob element of it, because I know that that's the part that kind of freaks people out or makes people kind of go, oh, I don't want to see it. But when you look at the actual structure of the piece, it is pure musical comedy genius. And so I you know, I'm not mad. I mean, everybody's going crazy about the band's visit, and the band's visit was a nice experience, but I am all about Team SpongeBob, and I don't care if who is it? Mean Girls is coming later on this season. I don't know what else is coming that's going to be new, but as far as I'm concerned, that's the show to beat.
We're talking with Keith Price here on the Focus Group with a theater talk, I guess, for the holidays, spending a lot of your money because a lot of these things we want to see.
Some of them, the first bunch of shows were under probably 100.
Yeah.
The seconds are Broadway prices.
The Broadway prices, but if you do things like Today Ticks, TDF, Broadway Box Alert, if you look around, if you have to,
we want people to do the one you're doing.
Yeah, well, Today Ticks is very cute. I'm not mad at them.
Keith might deliver your tickets.
You might be coming, and I'll be standing there with my red coat going, hello, welcome to the
What was the sixth one, John?
The sixth, the last two, you actually put on the list, and you said, I want to put these on the list because of the star power attached to the shows. And the first one is M. Butterfly, which I think is Clive Owen.
Yes, Clive Owen. Unfortunately, they just announced this week that it's closing this weekend. So unless you're planning on coming soon.
I was wondering what sales were like for that.
I mean, the thing is that here's the great thing about the star power, and then sometimes the negative thing about the star power. The great thing is that that's a name recognition that people will immediately buy tickets just because it's that person. The bad thing is that sometimes you can't forget that that's the person.
Yep.
So you're watching Clive Owen and you're like, oh, look at Clive Owen now. You know? And there's moments in that particular piece for me that were a little harder to believe because it was
it's
Clive
Owen. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas, who was it? John Lithgow, who did it originally. You can kind of see the situation happening and kind of go,
well, John Lithgow I think of him as more of a character actor.
Right. And this is a kind of a character in a weird way. But I mean, it's a very sad character.
Not that Clive Owen isn't.
He's fantastic.
But he's kind of like George Clooney.
It's hard to forget it's him.
These are these people, and if the role fits, it's perfect.
But it's
that one's closing soon then. So the last one was The Parisian Woman.
The Parisian Woman with Uma Thurman, and Blair Brown, actually, Tony Award winning Blair Brown, who I think is really the saving grace ultimately in terms of giving the show a little you know what I mean? But I think that, again, if you're a Uma Thurman fan, you will not be disappointed by her performance. I didn't love the play. I like the plays, but I didn't love them.
Not in comparison to Once on This Island, SpongeBob,
or SpongeBob, yeah,
or Whose Holiday.
You know, but I mean, but I get it. That's what I mean. It's like that's the difference. It's like I would certainly encourage people to go see those two plays because, I mean, these are world-class actors that are really doing the job. It's just that sometimes I wish that when they come with something interesting
beyond their name,
you know, that you can look past their name to get into, because unfortunately that's the hard part to let go. I mean, after a while you forget about Uma Thurman being Uma Thurman because there's other elements of the story that are great.
So if you could only see one, if you only had time to see one, could you pick one?
Well, because we're running out of time. We have Annie at the Paper Mill Playhouse.
Yes.
We have Desperate Measures at the York
Theater here,
which is based on Shakespeare's Measure for Measure. Whose Holiday at the West Side Theater has got a huge star by it.
Got to go.
When Cindy Lou Who.
I mean, that
years later, I live in a trailer down by the river. It's almost like, Chris Farley.
How she gets it.
And then on Broadway, we have Once on This Island, SpongeBob, and we'll just say The Parisian One because M. Butterfly is closing. But my guess is you're going to say SpongeBob.
I will say SpongeBob is
because I think that's going to be the new. What was the one with the Mormons?
Book of Mormon.
It's new. And that's another reason why I'm excited about it, because it's something new. Once on This Island, as far as a revival is concerned, I would say
thumbs up, 5 stars.
Do it.
But it's a revival.
But it's a revival. But it's a good one. It's a good one.
But no, I like your original. And actually, I've circled 2. Whose Holiday?
You know me, base level. Whose Holiday for me?
Yes, but you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
Hey,
She's
Keith,
blow you away.
Tell us how people can find your podcast.
They can find my podcast, Keith Price's Curtain Call. I am on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher. I'm also a featured podcast on BroadwayWorld.com, and I also
BroadwayWorld.com.
And I'm also producing and co-hosting another podcast called Mocha, Men of Certain Hue and Age, with my friend Bobby Rivers, and it's where I get to bring a little my conversation.
Men of certain hue
and age. Don't you love that? I bring my commentary about theater into the mix, and we talk about classic film, we talk about theater, we talk about politics, we talk about current events. But we are two, African-American men over a certain age. We're also gay, so we are much more open about the conversations that we have, and the things that we talk about are kind of fun. When we go there.
Mocha.
And that's called Mocha, and that's at mocha.podomatic.com.
Okay, excellent. Well, Keith, I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you for
it's
having
always
me.
a pleasure to have you. We're going to have you in the new year, I think.
Okay, and when I can talk about my comedy album that's going to be coming out.
Exactly.
Well, already we've set up.
Maybe you can come here and do a set.
Set up the on-ramp for you.
I would live for that. Are you kidding?
Keith Price.
Yes.
Name your podcast again.
Keith Price's Curtain Call.
And Mocha.
And Mocha, M-O-C-H-A-A, with Bobby Rivers.
And you can always get to Keith on Facebook as well. It's just Keith Price.
Keith Price. Facebook. I was like, which one is it? I don't remember.
Hey guys, we're going to take a really super quick break, and when we're back, we have a quick shop talk, which I think you'll find interesting. So stay with us.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Now back to the focus group with Tim and John.
Because he has a lot of chutzpah.
An entertaining look at the world of business.
Heads are spinning, heads are spinning.
Listen, laugh, and learn.
I am not gay. I never have been gay.
That's perverse.
Maybe for a second.
Oh, it never gets old. Hey, welcome back to the focus group. Tim Bennett here with John Nash. Thanks again to Keith Price for joining us and going through those 7 picks he had for theater. And there were a bunch that we'd love to see. So.
Okay, so I'm going to try to coordinate with you.
You're going to get who's?
Keith,
We want to
Keith's
go to
going to help us out, but I'm going to look at your schedule.
Who's
and
Holiday?
If you get up for a Who's Holiday show,
That'd be fun.
I knew when he went through all of them that this
Well, you
was
know
going to be
me,
one that was going to definitely resonate.
You know
with
how
Tim.
you know I go
You
right
know
to the
why?
base level.
And it was either that or The Desperate Measures, because your favorite film, your holiday film, is Home for the Holidays.
Yeah.
So that's a dysfunctional family.
Yeah, I love a
Now you got
dysfunctional
Cindy Lou Who, I live by a trailer down by the river. I love that. Chris Farley.
I got it because my boyfriend had a sliver. You know, I couldn't make a good rhyme. But hey, we've got a shop talk that
quick one
that John found, and I loved it because I've lived through this a couple of ways. But the headline was, "I'm being penalized for not participating in athletic events at work." And this woman had written into kind of an advice column about business. Did you get this off the Insider?
This was Inc. magazine.
Inc. magazine.
Yeah.
And essentially this person says, hey, I work for this manager. She's very much a athletic person.
Go.
She runs marathons. She skis. She's
Here's her phrase. She's young and very athletic, into running, marathons, snowboarding, hiking, etc.
etc. and wants all her employees to join in with her and do it. And if you don't do it, she ends up once a month giving you a ding on your performance review that you weren't a team builder. You weren't part
She'll
of
say, and it's
team building.
the activities that she wants the whole group to participate in: 10-mile hike, 5K run, rock climbing, parasailing.
Yeah.
Now, I'm athletic, but I don't do this stuff under all circumstances, and I'm certainly not going to necessarily do it at work, right?
No, and I had a friend of mine that worked for a very large top 5 corporation that said that she had run into that a few times. She had some health issues that she couldn't do those things.
This woman had health issues too.
Right, and what I found odd about this though is the fact that either this manager's boss did not intervene, or human resources had not said, hey, we've got some liability here with you taking people and constantly doing this sort of thing. Somebody breaks a leg, it feels like it's a work function, which it's not.
HR doesn't know, because according to the woman who wrote this letter to the Inc. magazine, she said, each month when I don't show up, she writes on my monthly review that I was not a team player and refused to participate in team building activities. That's like Rudolph, no
reindeer games.
No reindeer games for you. She has conferred privately with another employee but has not approached HR. So she hasn't talked to HR. She has talked to another employee, and she's debating about how to talk to her boss about this because she's getting dinged, right?
Yeah.
So the response was from this is ridiculous. There's no reason that you should be getting penalized on a performance review for not participating in athletic activities, assuming that your job is not marathon runner, rock climber, or some other title that will give me nightmares tonight. I mean, great point right off the bat, right?
Yeah. But it reminded me also, there's a lot of companies that people go play golf. And
I don't play golf. I did in college.
But if you didn't play golf, you weren't.
Here's a team builder.
Yeah, there's a team builder. Those were some craftswomen in Peru doing volleyball.
Did you put that in the deck?
Yeah, of course I did.
I didn't see that in the deck.
See,
that's very funny.
Well, it's team building.
So I guess it's lunchtime at the
and they better play
colorful
volleyball.
dress factory.
And then I did another picture because that's
kettlebells at lunch.
That's a Google headquarters.
That's Google.
Yeah, and then they do cycling, and then there's one in Philadelphia. A lot of the companies have rowing, and they have the employees row, and that's one of the rowing teams.
Whoa! Rowing is not. That's a lower back. That's
no. But so what the issue here is, which I think is a good point, is either A, you might not want to do it, but B, do you feel like you're being left out because you're not doing it? And so that's my golf example. If I didn't play golf either, but if my other peers are playing golf, or there were cases where the women couldn't go because women couldn't get on the golf course, they were being discriminated against. I had one quick funny story. You know the people, I won't say their names, but we were also required to volunteer a certain amount of hours at Subaru. And the Special Olympics was taking place, and neither this other person nor I signed up to volunteer for the weekend. We were going to the beach. So our boss, who you know, says, how come you have not signed up to volunteer at the Special Olympics? And I hear this through the wall. through the cube and
You're
busted
hearing
up
it-
laughing. I'm hearing him getting asked because they're asking why we haven't
Coworker,
signed up.
okay.
The coworker. He said, "I work with the mentally challenged all week. I don't need to do it on the weekend." And the guy, our boss, busts up laughing. He goes,
One I know.
"Yeah." He goes, "Enough. I don't." He never even asked me about it. And you.
Wow.
Because I work with the mentally challenged all week. I don't need to do it on the weekend. He goes, but I will volunteer for something else. And we laughed about it. But yeah, there's that whole expectation of, it's like going to the holiday parties. If you don't show up at the holiday party, you don't show up at the summer picnic at work. I stopped doing all that stuff, which is probably why I'm not in corporate America anymore. I hated it.
You're not paid for it. And you know, this is one of those
Gotta
issues.
go meet Susie's husband.
Yeah, well, I think that holiday party, great. Summer picnic, okay, that's two. Maybe you pick one other thing, but unless the team building's happening on the clock.
Which is not.
Yeah, and that's the game, though. Let's say we're meeting at the Reebok Center, we're gonna do the rock wall. You know, you can go a foot off the floor or 10 feet off the floor, but everybody's gonna have fun. It's gonna be a very casual thing. If that was on the clock from 9 to 5, I would show up for the rock wall. But if it's on my time, right?
I had a boss in the regional office that we were having book club. We were going to read a book.
Oh God!
And after the third or fourth, I didn't catch on, which was kind of surprising for me. After the third little hour session we would have once every Monday, we would have to come in and discuss the book. Well, after the third,
what do you think Tiny Tim's motivation was?
It became very religious.
Oh, okay.
Like Church of the Nazarene sort of stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm out. I said, I don't need, because it was all about the 10 Commandments and the morals and this and that. And I said, and one girl was all happy into it. And I said, I'm not doing it anymore. And I did go to HR and I said, I am not going to be subject to this religious book club.
You should have brought into HR a video of Davy and Goliath. But gee, Davy, what would God say? Yeah. I'm out of the book club. Push the off button.
And the Lutheran church organ at the end. And get a donut from Bess Eaton and head to Sunday school.
Oh my God,
I love Davy and Goliath, and
I did too.
I didn't know until later years when I could read, and I saw brought to you by the Lutheran Church.
I didn't know till years later when I could read, because we started watching it before we could read.
The night before, my father would take my brother and I to Bess Eaton Donuts in Stanford. We'd get a donut, and I'd get up early in the morning and turn on Davy and Goliath, and I had my donut, and then I'd get ready for Sunday school, and I never the whole indoctrination. You never had any.
But it was harmless. Be good to others. Don't lie. Don't steal.
Lie.
It was all good stuff. Hey, what a show. We're wrapping up, folks. Next week is going to be our holiday special show, and then that's followed by a very special broadcast we have. I don't think I should say didn't you correct me one time when when it's very special, it means it's something different?
Well, it sounds like a TLC, the Grand Supreme.
Grand Supreme, yeah.
Beauty pageant.
Big thanks to Mangrate. Go to mangrate.com for 50% off all their grill mates and brushes, and it's a great gift. As Tim said, the postman might curse you out because the thing weighs a ton. Hey, but good things weigh something, right? Substantial. Deep discount. Go to our site, focusgroupradio.com, click on the deep discount logo, the shark, and start saving and pick up some last-minute gifts there. We gave you some suggestions early in the show. And a big thank you to Volkswagen Group of America. They've been with us for 7.5. We're going to our 8th year. I always confuse because we were mid-year somehow. And
the show's celebrating our 10th year in March 08.
VW has been with us for a long part of that ride. VW.com, check out all the new models. The new Tiguan, the 2018 Tiguan, is doing quite well. It's Tim's, I think, new car.
I'd like it to be, but you've got to open up the wallet.
How did I get blamed for this?
Hey, you want a new iPad, no problem. I want a car, it's a problem.
There's a big price difference there. It's like saying to me, I want a pencil, and then, I want a bridge.
I'm surprised you haven't asked for the Apple Watch yet.
No, never.
Okay.
Not on my radar. I don't see the point of that. Anyway, don't text and drive. Arrive alive this holiday season. Did I like the way I added that holiday season thing in there?
What do you think?
Look, Garrett's like, no, thumbs down.
Stick to the original.
I love Garrett. Don't text and drive. Arrive alive. Stick to the original.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Formerly on Sirius XM Satellite Radio and now accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.